This is Alternative Political Analysis, and this video will be on why Fine Gael and the Irish Free State are so evil. And to answer this, we must answer, how did the Irish Free State come about? During negotiations, Lloyd George offered terms to De Valera. These terms would become the 1921 treaty. De Valera was unsure whether to accept them or not. Cathal Brugha implored him to reject Lloyd George's terms for the good of Ireland's people. Collins and Cosgrave urged De Valera to accept the terms, and Michael Collins managed to persuade Eamon De Valera to accept the terms. And this was all unnecessary, as De Valera was negotiating terms for a federal Ireland with James Craig. Why is that significant? That is significant as James Craig was a leading member of the Ulster Unionist Council, which would become the Ulster Unionist Party, and James Craig would also become the Premier within the six-county state. And the source for the aforementioned bits of information was T. Ryle Dwyer's biography of Eamon De Valera, and Michael Collins became the president of the Executive Council of Southern Ireland, which meant he was the Premier of the Irish Free State. He was succeeded by William Thomas Cosgrave after Dennis O'Neill or Jock McPeak shot Michael Collins on Liam Daisy's orders at Ballinamla on the 22nd of August 1922. And prior to that, the treaty had been implemented, and Collins said the treaty gave Ireland the freedom to achieve freedom. Now, this is clearly bovine excrement, as Ireland is still occupied 9.5 decades later. And prior to Collins' death, on the 2nd of May 1922, the Free Staters murdered 2 volunteers and 2 innocent people in Buncrana. And on the 22nd of June 1922, Henry Hughes Wilson had been killed on the orders of none other than Michael Collins. Winston Churchill, who was in Lloyd George's cabinet, thought the orders had came from the Four Courts, which was the headquarters of the government of the Irish Republic. And this led to a ludicrous situation. On the 20th of June, Michael Collins retaliated for an action he ordered by smashing the Four Courts with British artillery on the orders of the British government. And these calculated, deliberately detrimental and malevolent actions led to a bloody civil war. And quite frankly, 800 Free Staters got what they deserved, and 4,000 people lost their lives, and the source for that is Green Against Green by Michael Hopkinson. And in Dublin, Free Staters took volunteers out of their beds, shot them, and dumped them in ditches. Volunteer Michael Breslin was one among many who suffered this terrible fate. And there was a genocide of Brittonic Protestants in the 26 counties with the establishment of the Irish Free State, as 41,000 Protestants fled to the 26 counties between 1921 and 1923. In 1911, almost 10.5% of the population in the 26 counties were Protestants. In 1926, under 7.5% of the population of the 26 counties were Protestants. And this wasn't the only atrocity in the Civil War. There was the Ballacity massacre in Kerry, and this happened on the night of the 6th of March 1923 and the morning of the 7th of March 1923. And Free Staters brought 9 Republican volunteers out of Ballymullen Barracks in Tralee, and they brought them to Ballyseedy. They tied the 9 volunteers to a landmine in Ballyseedy, and survivors of the explosion were machine gunned by the Free Staters. And Stephen Fuller was blown to safety, and he would later become a Fianna Fáil deputy. And Republican volunteer Seamus Taylor was taken into Ballyseedy Woods and shot dead by the Free Staters. And soon after, 5 Republicans were tied to a mine in Countess Bridge in Killarney, and 4 Republicans were tied to a mine in Cahersiveen, and Republicans were shot before being tied to the mines at Countess Bridge and Cahersiveen to prevent Republicans escaping, as Stephen Fuller had. And in March 1923, 32 Republicans were killed in Kerry. Only 5 died on the battlefield, which means there were 27 Republicans killed in summary executions, which are war crimes. And these reprisals culminated in Jumbo Castle murders in Donegal, which prompted Dominic Behan to write "Take It Down from the Mast," and Behan also wrote "Come Out Ye Black and Tans." And Cosgrave's premiership was a decade of an authoritarian fascist dictatorship, and it is a pity the attempted assassination in 1928 did not succeed. And Michael Collins had made Owen O'Duffy the chief of police, and Cosgrave kept him as the chief guard. And Duffy was an authoritarian thug who was an overt fascist, and if you don't believe me, just look at the picture to your left. And O'Duffy said he was the third most important man in Europe after Hitler and Mussolini. Collins, Cosgrave, O'Duffy, and Richard Mulcahy all belonged to a party called Communale, which translates as the Association of Gaels, which split from Sinn Féin in 1922 to accept the Treaty of Surrender, and they are now called Fine Gael, which is the Gaelic clan. And Mulcahy executed 77 Republicans in 11 months, and the Black and Tans executed 14 Republicans in 2.5 years by comparison, and that is for context and perspective. In 1932, Owen O'Duffy set up the Army Comrades Association, and they became known as the Blue Shirts. They were for maintaining social order, i.e. maintaining the natural order and traditional hierarchy. They were also for private enterprise, the merger of the corporate and the state, and they were for union busting violence, and this is authoritarian violence akin to the Roman imperial civil magistrates authoritarian violence. And Owen O'Duffy set up the National Corporate Party in 1935. They became known as the Green Shirts, and essentially they were the same as the Blue Shirts. And Owen O'Duffy's Irish Brigade fought for Franco. On the other hand, the IRA's Connolly Brigade fought against Franco. And the purpose of this video really is to show how evil the 26 county regime are, and it is to show how evil the party that created that regime are, and they are currently in power, leading an executive in Leinster House. And I would recommend that viewers check out the Alternative Political Analysis YouTube channel, Facebook page and blog for more interesting posts and videos on this subject.